I am Kesten Rono, and you are worthy of the miracle of love. Congratulations, we've made it to day 10 of our exploration of A Course in Miracles. Thank you so much for being here with me. Yesterday, we were exploring the idea that love in the expression of miracles is some kind of exchange. And this is reversing the laws of physics, allowing ourselves to appreciate the idea that instead of normal material items where we give them and we no longer have them, love is some kind of item that the more that we give it, the more that we receive. That is a blessing. Miracles are healing in their capacity, and that something about this exchange from someone who has love to someone who is lacking love, relatively speaking, is fulfilling for both parties. And today we're going to dive right in to principle number 10. The use of miracles as spectacles to introduce belief is a misunderstanding of their purpose. The use of miracles as spectacles to induce belief is a misunderstanding of their purpose. Here I'm hearing the previous principle where we said miracles should not be under conscious control, and that our inclination to control them consciously will lead to misguidance of miracles. We know that the miracle itself does not matter, and that the focus of the miracle should be its source being love and all love being expressed maximally. So here we can accept that the use of miracles as spectacles to induce belief is a misunderstanding of their purpose. This would be more show and tell, where we were probably trying to bring attention to ourselves because we have come to understand some principle of the universe, which we should be allowing to operate subconsciously. It should be habitual and involuntary and should be occurring all the time. And if something is blocking them such that they are not occurring all the time, if we're bringing them into our conscious control, or we believe we want to use this power for spectacle, then we might be missing the entire purpose of miracles themselves. And I would venture to imagine that we are no longer going to be setting ourselves up for the longest time preference of receiving the maximal amount of love as we give it away. That there is some kind of natural flow of love through miracles into life, creating healing, and that by trying to grasp it, take control of it, and believe that we know best for what timing, what kind of outcome, how we would allocate that, this kind of central planning leads us down the wrong path. Somehow corrupts what a miracle should be or is naturally. And if we're trying to harness it for some kind of gain, that we are being short-sighted and ultimately shortchanging ourselves on experiencing the miracle of love. So today's principle, I believe, is inviting us again to relax our control and allow this process to occur naturally. In a sense, this allows us to be selfish, that miracles are for everyone, and we might be taking something away from ourselves, in addition to not offering it to somebody else because we believe we only want to do it for the spectacle, or that we want to direct it for some kind of happiness that we think is best. But that would violate the principle that this should be always occurring. So may we feel invited again to relax as we move on to today's exercise and relinquish control. And may we also allow miracles to be naturally occurring. And accept that the miracle itself, even though that's the focus of this book, does not matter. that we are releasing ourselves into love, becoming the wavelength of love. And as we become more of that feeling, perhaps we become more of whatever love is itself. And I would venture to imagine that as we relax into love and allow ourselves to feel more love or to feel more of what love is, we naturally overflow with whatever that process is. And we enter into the very natural cycle, the habitual, involuntary, subconscious miracle of love that springs forth into life and creates healing. May we allow it to be so. And if only for the sake of taking the step. Yesterday we were practicing an idea that we see nothing as it is now. And the book was attempting to calm us and remove us from our own headspace, that we might be able to intellectualize this idea, but even then, we wouldn't really be grasping it in its entirety. And perhaps right now we cannot. How are we supposed to justify that the things we believe we see, that we can touch and taste, that we feel affected by, that we can interact with in our environment, how are we supposed to logically accept that those things are not really there? We don't have to understand. And that's a beautiful gift. We're going to relinquish the control of understanding and again, take a step for the sake of the step. We're going to practice just to practice. And I think that is an invitation to be excited. We're practicing something that we do not understand, and we are just curious how it feels. In that sense, there's no threat here, and we can let down our guard and open ourselves to the idea that maybe what is written in this book is true, and that maybe we will discover what it is within this year's time, that we might actually feel this flow of love through us and accept its healing and offer it in its ever-flowing abundance to everyone around us, filling their lack with more love. So, patiently and with specificity, let's accept Lesson 9 and move on to Lesson 10. Lesson 10 says, my thoughts do not mean anything. Your thoughts do not mean anything. This idea applies to all the thoughts of which you are aware or become aware in the practice periods. The reason the idea is applicable to all of them is that they are not your real thoughts. We have made this distinction before and will do so again. You have no basis for comparison as yet. When you do, you will have no doubt that what you once believed were your thoughts did not mean anything. So again, we may not understand exactly what's going on here. And the idea that my thoughts do not mean anything is already reminiscent of some of the earlier practices. Maybe this feels redundant, but again, let's take the step for the sake of taking the step. Right here, the book is telling us that we don't have anything to compare this to, likely because we've been thinking the way that we've been thinking for as long as we've been thinking it. And if we can accept that we've never really been able to dissolve into the present, then perhaps we've never really come into understanding. And our thoughts, therefore, not being in the present, but possibly being in the past or the future to some capacity. The past helping us to shape our experience, make us feel safe, and give us some foundation, some springboard to move forward in life. These thoughts are illusions. My thoughts do not mean anything. This is the second time we have used this kind of idea. The form is only slightly different. This time, the idea is introduced with my thoughts instead of these thoughts. and no link is made overtly with the things around you. The emphasis is now on the lack of reality of which you think you think. The emphasis is now on the lack of reality of what you think you think. Okay, so instead of saying these thoughts, we are now focusing on my thoughts or your thoughts. And the emphasis here is supposed to be on the lack of reality of what you think you think. The lack of reality of what you think you think. Okay, so we are thinking about something. We think we are thinking about something, but that is not true. We think we are thinking about something, but that is not true. So we are turning the idea from these thoughts to my thoughts. This aspect of the correction process began with the idea that the thoughts of which you are aware are meaningless, outside rather than within, and then stressed their past rather than their present status. Now we are emphasizing that the presence of these thoughts, in quotes, means that you are not thinking. Okay, the presence of these thoughts, just them existing at all, the idea that we believe we are thinking, the presence of these thoughts means that we are not thinking. Okay, so that we think we are thinking means we are not thinking. This is merely another way of repeating our earlier statement that your mind is really a blank. To recognize this is to recognize nothingness when you think you see it. As such, it is the prerequisite for vision. So, when we close our eyes, if you are like most people, you can probably picture a banana, a bicycle, a car. But in order to really see, a prerequisite for vision, to recognize nothingness when we think we see it. That is confusing. Let's repeat part of that. This is merely another way of repeating our earlier statement that your mind is really a blank. And we believe that our mind is blank because if we are focused on the past never by definition ever being in the present, then we are focusing on an illusion. And all of this effort that we are giving to the past in order to shape what our present is, so maybe our ego, our self feels safe, secure. We know we're correct, we're right in our ways, we've justified our feelings of the past, we believe we are the way we are, and we do not want to accept change, makes it difficult for us to settle into the present, that we're blinded by our own thoughts and the way that we shape what we believe is our reality. Our mind is really a blank. To recognize this is to recognize nothingness when you think you see it. So to recognize that our mind is a blank is to recognize nothingness. This is the prerequisite for vision. Close your eyes for these exercises and introduce them by repeating the idea for today quite slowly to yourself. So, please close your eyes. Please repeat after me. My thoughts do not mean anything. My thoughts do not mean anything. My thoughts do not mean anything. Please, keeping your eyes closed, we are going to add this idea will help to release me from all that I now believe. So putting these ideas together, please repeat after me. My thoughts do not mean anything. This idea will help to release me from all that I now believe. My thoughts do not mean anything. This idea will help to release me from all that I now believe. The exercises consist, as before, in searching your mind for all the thoughts that are available to you, without selection or judgment. Try to avoid classification of any kind. In fact, if you find it is helpful to do so, you might imagine that you are watching an oddly assorted procession going by, which has little, if any, personal meaning to you. As each one crosses your mind, say, "My thought about blank does not mean anything." My thought about blank does not mean anything. If you've opened your eyes, let's close them again. Later, when you try this practice, you can try this on too. You imagine there's a procession in front of you. Things are passing by. Perhaps, for our case, we can imagine we're at a cafe, sitting outside, watching people pass by. And we can try on this together. My thought about these people does not mean anything. Please try these statements on yourself too, repeating after me. My thought about this coffee does not mean anything. My thought about that dog does not mean anything. My thought about that child does not mean anything. My thought about that police officer does not mean anything. This idea will help to release me from all that I now believe. My thought about that bicycle does not mean anything. This idea will help to release me from all that I now believe. Today's thought can obviously serve for any thought that distresses you at any time. In addition, 5 practice periods are recommended, each involving no more than a minute or so of mind searching. It is not recommended that this time period be extended, and it should be reduced to half a minute or less if you experience discomfort. Remember, however, to repeat the idea slowly before applying it specifically, and also to add, "This idea will help to release me from all that I now believe." So our practice today is 5 times, or 4 after this video, for 1 minute maximum, or less, even half the time, or half of that time. Really, making it as simple as possible for us to settle into this idea, a slight change from these thoughts to my thoughts. My thoughts do not mean anything. We're going to scan our mind, and if we need to, we can allow a parade of items to cross in front of us, like counting sheep jumping over a fence. This fence does not mean anything. Excuse me. My thoughts about this fence do not mean anything. My thoughts about these sheep do not mean anything. This idea will help to release me from all that I now believe. My thoughts about this grass do not mean anything. This idea will help to release me from all that I now believe. One more together. My thoughts about this book do not mean anything. This idea will help to release me from all that I now believe. May you allow yourself to accept that your thoughts about anything that you can imagine do not mean anything. And please allow yourself to reinforce the idea that this idea will help me to release, this idea will help to release me from all that I now believe. My thoughts do not mean anything, and this idea will help to release me from all that I now believe. Thank you so much for being here with us again. I am Kesten Rono, and you are worthy of the miracle of love. Please today find 4 or 5 times for 15, 30, or 60 seconds to simply allow yourself to dissolve into your thoughts and say, my thoughts do not mean anything. Thank you for your patience and practice. Please be well, rest easy, and I will see you tomorrow for day 11 of our exploration of A Course in Miracles.